all from the local theater company and Toto Too. Their next productions are two Colorado premiere one-acts, The Way Station and South Star. So please welcome the cast and creative team of Way Station and South Star. Hi guys, how are you?
Hello.
They're great.
Good. Why don't you guys start by just introducing yourself and which show you're working on and kind of what role. So why don't we start at the end and work our way
Sure.
this way.
My name is Austin Lazak, and I am in The Way Station as a character named Tom, and South Star as a character named Evan.
My name's Kate Poling. I'm playing Daisy in Way Station and Estelle in South Star.
I'm Seth Palmer Harris. I am Jack in The Way Station and Alex in South Star.
And I'm Susan Lyles, and I am directing and producing.
Very cool. So why don't we start with Susan? Just talk more about these two premieres.
These are two one-acts that are written by Rebecca Gorman O'Neill, who's a local Denver playwright. She's actually a professor here at Metro State. This makes our third main stage production with Rebecca, and she's been with us working since 2010 on her play Crawl. It's one of our writers. So we're very excited. It's the plays are kind of sci-fi, Twilight Zone-y, morality plays in a way.
Okay.
So it's really it's fun.
Very cool. And why don't you guys talk more about your characters and kind of what your experience with the shows are?
Sure. I mean, it's a really interesting thing to play two back-to-back characters written by the same playwright, and there's kind of a funny overlap between the two plays, but they're very different. So in the first one, I play more of a genteel type guy, and the second one, I'm more predatory and kind of gruff. So it's a great, as an actor, it's a great experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, in The Way Station, I'm a 17-year-old from the 1930s and kind of innocent, naive, and running from something, as all of the characters are in The Way Station. And then in South Star, I play Estelle, who is the leader of the rebels 7 years into the Second American Civil War. So she's tired, she's been at war for 7 years, kind of no innocence lost, and the innocence lost there. So interesting juxtaposition of characters for sure.
And in The Way Station, my character is a gruff cowboy, or is he? And then in the South Star, my character is a beaten resistance fighter, or is he?
Talk more about getting to do two one-acts, like you said, back-to-back by the same author, because I feel like as an actor you kind of get in the author's head, the playwright's headspace with that particular play, but now you're doing two right back-to-back. So talk about that transition, kind of what you guys do in between.
Well, yeah, what's been great is that she's been a part of it. She's come to our rehearsals. She is local, so we can pick her brain about the backstory and the choices that she made. I've never done two one-acts back-to-back, so it'll be really interesting to kind of switch that, just right after, intermission and go straight into the other one. So I'm really excited.
Yeah.
Right, we're still in rehearsals right now, so we haven't quite done them back to back yet, but it's going to be really fun. There's two different sets. Our set will open up to be the second set, and it's interesting to do two totally different characters, not only from different plays, but also different time periods, and working with the physicality with that, as well as just what kind of person would live in the 1930s versus, the future, which I find really interesting. Anything?
Well, as an actor, I always love having a good gear shift in the middle of a show, and whether it's switching characters or just switching the energy and the feel of the show, whatever it happens to be, I just like the dynamism of it. And so having, the opportunity to do two different shows back to back like that, and I mean, a very natural gear shift with two very different characters. Or are they? They are. But at the same time, because Rebecca wrote both of them, and she has a very kind of like consistent and mature writing style, there is a very nice common thread to both, like a nice similarity in the rhythm and the flow. And yeah, so it's been a joy just working with all of these lovely words.
And Susan, talk about as a director, doing two pieces and talk about what that is like staging and kind of what you guys are envisioning for that.
Well, I think the hardest part in staging was the fact that it's two completely different sets. And when I was looking at doing it, I went to my my scenic designer, And so I said, can you do this? And in the space that we're in, because we're in a really small space, so that kind of limits what we can do anyway. And he looked at it for a while. He kind of groaned at me and then looked at it. My set designer is my husband, so you can see that dynamic. So he sat down with his sketch pad and sketched some stuff out, and then he came back with the idea of doing the way station first. And then what we'll do is we'll remove a lot of the set, and then they swing in. So the back wall is going to swing in, and he's thinking we're going to have trees attached to that back wall.
Okay.
So it'll all swing in as a unit. So we'll have trees scattered about, and then an A-frame pulls in. That's an old broken down swing set. So there's a lot of movement on it,
Okay.
and I love that. Going from two different time periods is fascinating because people move differently, and they talk differently, and there's just a more of a naivete to did I say that right? Naivete? Oh, yay! To people who are from earlier in the 20th century than those who are now. We move differently, we talk differently, we think differently. So it's kind of a fascinating thing, and watching these guys do it and correcting their modernisms in the first play, and then embracing them in the second one. So, but it's fascinating. I love it. I love it. It's like two whole different shows in one.
It is. And let's talk, we're running out of time, but about South Star for 1 minute, just because it's, like you said, about the Second American Civil War. And if anyone's wondering, there was not a Second American Civil War.
It hasn't really happened.
Just to be
happened yet.
clear. So what's it like getting to do a futuristic piece, kind of maybe future, well, not maybe future. I'm not saying it's going to happen. Not saying it's going to happen. But, could happen. Maybe. I don't know. What's it like doing a futuristic piece?
Well, Rebecca did a great job of leaving a lot of pieces untold. It's fairly ambiguous. We've had a lot of great talks about maybe what led to it, coupled with the fact that, like, as an audience member, you're kind of trying to guess who these characters are and their relationships. So it's really fun to kind of speculate those ideas and what led these characters to this point, their breaking points and their incentives.
Right, as well as we've had lots of conversations about, like, who's the bad guy? Is it my character and her side, or is it these characters and their side? And that's been really interesting,
And politically,
especially with the Civil War.
Where the rebels were not the good guys.
Are the rebels the good guys, or the rebels the bad guys?
Right.
And is there a good guy? Is there a bad guy?
Is there
Or is
ever?
it just different viewpoints?
and hopefully the audience can find their own viewpoint on where they lean.
Right.
Right.
So I think it lends itself to that.
And then, since we have a little more time, talk about Waystation and going from a futuristic piece to back in time, kind of that thing.
Yeah, it's really fun. Waystation is really kind of timeless. It's at this train station, and we're not quite sure where we are, and that's where the kind of Twilight Zone-y feel comes in. And then all these characters are running from something, and so it's dealing with that, not wanting to admit what they're running from, being in a room with strangers and stuck in a room with strangers, and how you deal with that and navigate that.
It's actually, there are aspects of it, they're a lot like No Exit by Sartre, Sartre, if you prefer. And of these three strangers kind of coming together and having to confront one another, and all being from very different backgrounds. I will say it mysteriously.
It's a bit uncomfortable. I mean,
Yeah.
and the audience will feel that, but it's fun to do as an actor and try to find that weird timelessness, but also they feel trapped.
Yeah. I like it. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on.
Thank you.
And if you guys want kind of a blast from the past and a futuristic, possible maybe, I don't know, outlook.
Hopefully not.
Then be sure to check out Waystation and South Star at Toto Too Theater Company, and stick around because we have more